right, welcome to Naija Unfiltered, a SYMFONI podcast. I'm Victor Iroele, welcoming you to the show. And on today's edition of the program is High Chief Peter Ameh, who is the candidate for the Nigeria Democratic Congress for Kogi East in the forthcoming elections. Good to have you, High Chief.
My pleasure to be here with you always.
All right, your appointment as the National Director General of the OK Movement, the political support coalition for Peter Obi and Rabiu Kwakwanso, triggered a little bit of leadership disaffection within the organization. What are the key issues?
No, the key issue is that for the movement, the essence was to put together interest and aggregate views from within the obedient movement and the Kwankwasia movement to see how much best possible we can put strategy together to get them elected into office. I'm not desperate for anything. Whether I'm contesting for Senate in the Kogi East, it's just to do good, and trying to bring good governance to our people who, over the years, there are a lot of forgotten people within our communities that have not had opportunity for good governance, to have good representation, or have people who are exposed enough to know that in building an egalitarian society or building a society where all men and women are looked after is better than acquisition of wealth that eventually will fizzle away after the death of the person.
Some persons tend to mix up between the obedient movement, the OK movement, and they wonder which one is higher in hierarchy now.
If we look at it from the point of hierarchy, we bring dissatisfaction, and that's what's causing panic. Because those who lead the other movement feel, they are going to be subjugated to the whims and authorities of those who now lead the OK movement, and that is not what it should be. It should be about collaboration. It should be about commitment to working together and ensuring that if you believe in the principles that is that is endeared to a lot of Nigerians, like somebody who is disciplined, somebody who have the capacity to manage resources, somebody to have the patience, to be effective in governance leadership system. So if you believe in those criteria that I mentioned, you shouldn't be worried about which one is higher or which one is lower.
All right, let's examine the emphasis on President Tinubu's qualifications by all the political parties. This issue has been litigated severally and repeatedly, and to some persons, they feel is a little bit of distraction from the opposition party rather than focusing on the main issue, dwelling on this qualification. What do you think?
I think nobody should go to litigation over Tinubu's credentials. It's obvious Tinubu doesn't have primary school certificate. He doesn't have second. It's obvious. The public knows, because nobody should be hiding for too long or try to look for a way to cut corners. Tinubu does not have that. If Tinubu was somebody that believes that Nigerians should know the truth, he would have come forward to say much about it. But he's not somebody that believes that the people hold any form of authority over whatever decision he takes. He believes he's the one that determines what he wants to do and how he wants to do it. And those who are complaining should go to hell. But wasting time in going to litigate it will not give any results. The moral burden is already on Tinubu. He knows, his supporters knows. They are feeling, if you watch interview, you see they can't defend it. They are in defensible situation that they have found themselves in a very strong debacle. But what I should have advised Tinubu, if Tinubu understand what it means to rise from the ground, he should have told his story differently. I was poor, I didn't have the opportunity to go to school, I didn't have the opportunity to get a certificate, but look at where I am, please, your children should be committed. But telling lies, to cover up what you don't have is obviously a disservice and a disrespect to the Nigerian populace, because it doesn't have it. And I challenge them, if they say it has it, to present it. So what you don't have, you can't give. So what we should do as opposition is to continue to encourage children, young people, upcoming young generations of Nigerians to look at people who have such principles, better principles that their children can be modeled after, their children can learn from, and their children can use it as a template for success, which is why, like I said, I support Peter Obi. The history is clear. I passed with him through CKC yesterday. He showed me his compound. He showed me where he was born. This is not the first time he's showing me anyway, but every time we pass, we have to just laugh over and say, the CKC, the school is still there. Where he was born is still there. The offices and all the places, they are still there in Onitsha. So it's not something that you have to try to, rewrite history to be able to get it right. Something that history itself knows very well, that is, written and properly established within the framework of our system. So nobody should go to court. People shouldn't go to court. It's a waste of time. It's distraction. We should concentrate on his abysmal failure, inability, and incompetence to, run the country where a lot of people would have seen the impact of the level of the money that has accrued to the government of the Federation.
What do you think about those who say this issue is enough to disqualify him? What's their place?
The system has failed to disqualify him because one the problem we have, that's why we've talked about unbundling of the commission, the INEC, unbundling it and removing the power from the government, to act in a way that that they will undermine the integrity, the independence of the commission. So because if the commission was really an independent commission, there are certain things the commission would have done in line with all of this. And when you have a National Assembly also that have become a toothless, spineless bootlicking, to the president, where they would look for anything to undermine our laws to keep the president in power, where they remove, where certificate forgery becomes a crime, and you just wonder what they tell their children at home. It baffles me what these lawmakers will go home and discuss with their kids, and spending so much money in putting their school, and they don't even put their children in school in Nigeria because they don't even believe in the educational system. So spending so much money to send their children abroad and to decide to be defending and protecting a person who have none, it's obviously a lack of proper moral upbringing for those who have stood in that part of that direction. So, and if the people lack principle, there's no way they can deliver good governance to you. If people all they think about is how to protection of their own benefit, not right, because rights are actually different from benefit. Benefit comes from what you want to do, what you want to get just for yourself. So if you have such people in power, I'm very sure there's no way we can also get it right. So we have to overhaul the entire gamut of our governance and leadership system, whether from each of the arms and every other thing, to be able to restructure it properly so that it can actually defend what is defendable and not go for issues that will further break the moral fabric of our cultural and traditional system of life that we have had over a long period of time, even before the arrival of the colonial masters.
The question would be, who will bail the cat?
Nigerians will bail the cat. Nigerians bailed the cat in 2023. It's obvious, but the mistake the Nigerians made, Nigerians were saying, "Oh, Peter did not protest to protect his way." They could see example from Osun. I've said it severally, that when the people resolved in their majority that this will stop, it will stop. Because when you say protest becomes, when government can suppress protest, is when you have a population of 1 million people and 30,000 comes out to protest. Government will suppress it. But let's say you have a population of 1 million people and 800,000 come to protest. The government can suppress it because the people's will and the people's overwhelming participation will douse the authority of the government and the power of the government to override the interest of the people. So when the people become disengaged or discouraged because of the level of misinformation that the government is investing so much money on, to make the people not to see the possibility of trying to create a government different from what we have, and then the people fail themselves because one man can do much, but all the general public put together can do a lot.
There have been this argument that without the opposition fielding a single candidate, it will be pretty difficult to defeat Tinubu come 2027. What's your reaction?
It's laughable because I've been National Secretary of Interparty Advisory Council, National Chairman of Interparty Advisory Council. I went to school. I studied up to PhD level in political management and political economy. So I know that this is, apart from that, I have a lot of friends everywhere because of my many years of being here. This is a narrative created by the APC. And amplified by certain section of the media, to make it look as if, and this is an attempt to rig the minds of Nigerians before election day. Their rigging has started. And what they want to do is they have set up a disinformation campaign, a disinformation unit at the city boy level and all of that, which we are very much aware of, to try to be drawing this narrative and be throwing this story aside. That is not the reality. The reality is that people will always vote for candidate of their choice. Nigerians forefathers and those who model our fourth democratic experiment, which is the Fourth Republic, are not daft. when they wanted us to have a multi-party democratic system. A multi-party democratic system is that you can have up to 100 and all of them will have presidential candidates. We had how many presidential candidates last time? How many people got vote? People knew where to temperate. People tempered for Peter Obi across Nigeria for a new party. Don't forget, for a new party. So all this narrative of that is being created by the APC and their supporters is total farce. It's a farce. It's not the truth. The truth is that candidates who have potentials, who have credibilities, who have sold themselves enough to the people will be voted for. We just concluded the Osun State election. Do you know that Accord is a new party? In Osun State, not a new party in Nigeria, because all the former national chairman from Nalado and Co. have been my friends. So, but in Osun State, Accord became the governing party because Adeleke left the PDP to join them. And citizens went to the poll to cast their vote for over 511,000 persons. Cast their vote for Accord Party as against the APC that is in power, that has ministers from the state, that has people from the state, that has the president from the state. Because naturally our president is from Osun, but we want to remain a city boy in Lagos. So all of this interest was put together, and yet the people went for Accord. So the party must do more in creating visibility for his logo, in trying to campaign to the people with a credible candidate, with the message that will resonate with the citizens. So all those other parties that contested, are you saying they wasted they shouldn't have contested? It's their fundamental right. And it's also the fundamental right of the citizens to be given opportunity to choose from the array of candidates that will be presented to them on election day. That does not stop people to vote. If that glitch had not happened in 2023, Peter Obi should have been president today. Today. It's a rigging for me. And they have created. See, look everywhere. Who are they attacking? Look everywhere. This all one candidate thing. It's even an attack against Peter Obi. It's an attack. It's so that it's people who are working for him, or those who are supporting him across the globe and in Nigeria here, will start to feel, oh, there should have been one candidate. Who told you that? That's not how Nigeria works. We have states. Peter won Nasarawa. Peter won Plateau with 1 million votes. You don't take these things for granted. All we need to do is to go back and appeal to those who worked for us in 2023 and say, yes, mistakes were made. The mistake wasn't Peter Obi's own. It was all our collective mistakes that we did not protest. That glitched, and that thing that led to the loss of his mandate. Because if people of Osun have decided that Adeleke is not coming out to protest for his mandate, the mandate would have been gone. They were the ones that were active. They were the ones who had the polling unit who were seizing money that was brought to buy votes. They were the one who was determined that saying that, no, you cannot do this. The result must be uploaded. It is the citizens that did this because they believe in a just and equitable society. They believe in fairness. And it is the citizens of Osun who are enlightened, who decided that this should be the approach. You can't have a system where we all just give up. We can't give up. This is our country. We're not going anywhere. We have this just one life to spend. And we should spend it in creating a government that can truly represent our interests. Let me say something very critical. I've been on the road in the last 1 week. From Nsukka, from Enugu capital city to Nsukka, from Nsukka to through Opi, to Otukpa, to Otuko, where we visit those who were killed by bandits in those communities. Many people will not attempt to enter those forests. As we're going, I was talking to the presidential candidate of the NDC. Okay, we need to turn back. We're entering deep into the forest. He said, no, the people who are living there is our citizens who vote for us, who have been canvassing for a good Nigeria, who have been waiting for a Nigeria that will represent them, that will not see them as forgotten people of this country. And we got there, even people were saying, you have to leave now. This place is unsafe. He said, no. And people are dying. All of us are going to die. We stayed there. We left there, went back to Nsukka. The next day, we moved to where? We moved to Kogi. We moved to Anyigba. Agreement nursing school where he supported them. We were there. We met some of the leaders of our state, some very senior leaders of Igala communities. He greeted them because we were passing. We went back to Olamabro. We went to one place they call Nugbaoko. When the man who built the school told me, I thought it was at the center of the town because it's on my local government, not knowing that it was more further into the forest than where we went to in Otukpa. So we're going, at least for the first time, I saw the man who say, he can chest it. He will say, oh, this one is really far, but we must continue to go. We have promised him that we are coming. So we went there, we did that. The reason why this country is not working is that people like Tinubu has been in government since 1999 or 1993 when he won senatorial election. He has been insulated from the reality of this country. Which road has he traveled on? Does he know the conditions that people are traveling on the road? Which place has he lived that there's no electricity in the last 25 years? He has enjoyed uninterrupted electricity in the last 25 years for himself. So this is why you see that they don't even feel empathy. They don't feel compassion. They're insensitive to the reality and the pain that Nigerians are going through. That is why I don't think anybody should elect a man who do not know the road between Benue and Nasarawa, who cannot even travel between, how they call it, to Angas, to one of the states in the Biron land. Nobody is going to, persons who have lived that level of luxury and that kind of high-class society life, that will understand what you are going through. You will be living to a report of those who are eating on the table and have developed table manners.
Okay, now that you said it doesn't matter whether the opposition presents a single candidate or not, can the candidate of NDC defeat Tinubu in 2027?
Please, can you look at the statistics? In the whole of South.
Just give us an insight.
No,
break it down for us.
Peter Obi defeated Tinubu in the South. Go and look at the figures. The figures are there. He did.
The entire South or Southeast and South?
In South, go and look at the figure. He did. He's the king of the South when it comes to election. When it comes to the vote. Yes, but they are trying to rig the mind of the people not to come out. Because the people are afraid. Let me tell you why they are afraid. Because the numbers that were taken away is making them feel that if Peter is on the ballot, there will be crisis. Because they are the INEC and the people who knows the number they saw in 2023. That's why they are worried. They know the number they saw. They know what he got. We need to heal this country. We need to make this country work. And there's somebody who can bring this whole country together, create love from Muslim to Christian, create love between North and South, create love between the Galas, the Idomas, the Agas, and everybody. That is very important. You need somebody with these characteristics of kindness, this compassionate attitude, this sensitive attitude to the plight of the people, who can relate with our pain.
So give us an electoral map. Give us an electoral map zone by zone, how you think your candidate can fare.
You know there are certain strategies you don't put in public, but you know that day and night, the South, look, I was worried that...
Just give us a tip of the iceberg.
You know the last time we won Delta State by 80%. And I was worried that with the change of things and all that, what is happening. But when you travel and do your survey, and you do proper survey, we're not people who just talk. We carry out survey, and we know that Peter will defeat Tinubu. And I have an electoral map, But the last time we came second in Bayelsa. Today, we are not going to win Bayelsa. We had nobody in Bayelsa that was even coordinating for us, but we came second. Today, we have people in Bayelsa that have the knowledge, they have the popularity, they have the acceptability, that can canvass and make sure we come on board.
You know you have an incumbent governor there.
Incumbent knows.
And
there was incumbent in Delta, and there was a vice presidential candidate to Atiku in Delta when we defeated them with 80% of the vote. So it's not that incumbency doesn't count these days, because the mistake people make is that before this 2023 election, people used to believe in gatekeepers. Some old people who sat in their corner who say, don't vote for this one, don't vote for that one. But there are a vast majority of our voting population are now young people who are exposed, who are intelligent, who know what they want, who think Nigeria should have, given them more opportunity than what they have. Who think Nigeria should have been able to create more jobs for them. Do you know how many level of graduates that are coming out of school without jobs? Instead of the federal government to focus on creating an environment to create jobs for our people, because the federal government as a body cannot even employ the whole people that are coming out. But you need to have the capacity and the vision and the idea to invest in small and medium scale enterprises or even larger scale enterprises that can create jobs. So if you don't have those ideas, if your idea is just about Bowoko Dibo, take money and vote. If your idea is just about money sharing, 13,000. We saw Simba just shared money in the Tinubu's time. Where's the money? The people have gone back to poverty. Far below poverty line, abject poverty. You don't bring tokenism into government and you think you can make it. If you want to do real economic plan, we should have seen what you have with all of our scale, our artisan and small, medium scale enterprises. We should have seen what you are putting there We should see your investment toward that direction. And that's the kind of thing that is a mainstay of any economy in the world, China and America.
But do you think Peter Obi can make more impact in the North as against what the impact he made in 2023?
That is part of the mind rigging that they are talking about. Peter Obi made a lot of impact in the North. The Nasarawa they are talking here, Peter won it. Plateau, Peter won it. It is unthinkable that a candidate without any political infrastructure, apart from his name, his reputation that was put on the ballot, could defeat all those people who were there. Peter Obi won Benue. Whatever happened, happened. Even Kogi, I was in Kogi in the election. I saw what they did. But as usual, in his character, he will always forgive. And let's move on to heal this country. Peter can do more. Because within the candidates we have in the North today, we never had them. Don't forget, Kwankwaso was in another party, NNPP. Marafa in Zafra was in APC. Binani was in APC. These are people that are in NDC today. If I want to mention all of them, it's not good for strategy. And I tell you that the person that can defeat Tinubu in the coming election, everybody knows. It's the only one with the momentum, with the enthusiasm. Everybody knows that people can naturally go to the ballot box to cast their vote without thinking twice. He's the only one in the opposition. They know. And that's why you hear all this kind of thing. Oh, he would have been vice president. He would have been this one. There are a lot of people. You choose vice president for your candidate and you're still worried that he should have been in. You understand what I'm saying? You have chosen one person. Why are you still worried? Because you know what Nigeria feels about your candidate. You know how Nigeria feels about Peter Obi. You know that. But you think that he must come to run as vice president candidate, which I think, for me, is unacceptable. I think that he's a good man. He's a man who respects everybody. He will never speak like I speak. He will never encourage anybody to speak the way we speak. But I've been in politics for too long, not to be able to express myself, not to be able to say the truth, that Nigerians have the opportunity to rewrite our story, to give opportunity to our system, and to give a man who have the capacity to look at the budget line by line, page by page. You won't see all this phony budget appropriation that you are seeing. It's because the president cannot take time and go through this. So it's outsourcing to people. It is in that outsourcing that all this fraudulent manipulation of figures and theft of public funds occurs. But Peter will not. Peter will outsource. You will bring it for his confirmation and reconfirmation, and he will go through it line by line. And our budget will be so tailored that you will see the effect. I've seen people talk about, okay, continue.
Let's look at NDC. How on ground is NDC, and what do you think makes NDC different from APC, ADC, just name it? Because all those who populate NDC are the same people who migrated from all these other parties. So do you think NDC is on ground across the length and breadth of the country, and why do you think they are different from others?
They are different from others because of the fact that there's a commitment to solve the problem that is bedeviling this country. There's a commitment from the leadership, from Peter Obi himself. There's a commitment. The influx of people to the NDC, it was not just something that happened. It happened because of Peter Obi. It happened because of him. People can say anything. People can decide to want to rewrite history and want to make themselves look, but that happened because of him. And the NDC was a new baby. And Peter also felt attracted to it by the name, that talks about Nigeria, anything that has to do by solving Nigerian problem is where his interest lies. And when people saw that was his attention, that, everything was about the people, everything was about, Kwankwaso believed in talakawas. He believed in resolving the issue of the poor people. He believed in making sure that education is affordable to the masses, even if he has to sponsor those same educational interests with his own money. So these are the aligned opinion of two leaders that brought their organic movement to make NDC a robust platform that can defeat Tinubu any day, anytime. Any day, anytime. They know. You see, I've said, if you pay attention very well, and you go through the handles of a spokesperson to the presidency, you go through their television interview. Even when the interviewer is not asking their question about Peter Obi, they will bring it up. They will bring it up from one corner on their own, even when they are supposed to stay away from it. So it's the only nightmare that they have. It's the only worries that they have. But for him, he doesn't believe in all this, you talk to me, I talk to you back. He wants to be an election to be issue-based so that there won't be distraction, so that there won't be about, oh, which certificate? What has Tinubu done for the poor man in this country? What has he done?
All right, let's share with us the much you know about Peter Obi, because in the light of some of his close allies coming out to say he may not necessarily be who we think he is, beyond frugality, what else can you say about Peter Obi?
Peter Obi character is straightforward. There's no pretense about that. People can change their opinion for, I don't know what reason, for any peculiar reason or any small benefit. But Peter Obi character is a very steadfast character. He's not a pretentious person. If he feels what, he will let you know. If he's happy, he will let you know. If you feel something is wrong, he will find a way to solve it without apportioning blame to either followers or those who work for him. He will find a way to solve it. People, frugality and discipline is the reason why most of our leaders don't have it. That's why we are in this mess. An ability to manage our public resources, to be able to, detach themselves by seeing public resources as their own personal resources. Because that's what most of our leaders will do. I even saw a video where somebody was talking about he saved money. He doesn't know what to do. He is saving money. People have not read what sovereign wealth is for federal government and sub-regional nations. You don't know about capital formations. When you talk about you earn, you save, you invest. That is how it is everywhere in the world. And because Peter Obi managed a lot of banks, he's looking at the future of the people so that there could be any time the depression could happen, you have something to run to. And that when he left office with all those money in the account, he was not owing gratuity, he was not owing pension, he was not owing contractors. People can come to any television station and lie. Ask them to bring one person, a contractor, that say Peter Obi was owing before he left office and left money. None. He has even challenged the public. So people can come to spaces and say things just because they have new paymasters and they need to be able to, make them feel that they are doing their work that they have been employed to do. But to say the truth is that what Peter Obi started, and you could listen to Atedo Peter's side and listen to people like Konjo Wela, when they talk about even when Jonathan was trying to do sovereign wealth fund, Peter was really in favor of it. Peter was the only governor who felt yes, we should save for the future generation. So if somebody is saying that saving is bad, is it debt that Tinubu is keeping for us now that is the right thing we should do? We should keep debt for our children instead of to save for them. You can see the contradiction. We should keep debt. No. Saving is a good way to make sure that we have a buffer to fall to. We have something that when there's a crisis in our economy, we can go take money from that and then use it. And then invest some of the money. The reason why Anambra became stable after Peter left was that people came to government and met money. And nobody will keep money that they can steal. They're stealing the money. We cannot go into rhetorics and all these small funny talks. You should talk about character. You should talk about principle. You should talk about discipline. What every day you wake up as a parent, what do you tell your child? Don't do this, don't do that. Be disciplined. Our family doesn't have this bad name. So why are you not happy when you have a presidential candidate that does not have a bad name? You want to have a presidential candidate that two of them will be arguing, you can't go to America. America is looking for you. If you go to America, this one will tell this one, if you go to America, America will arrest you. That one will tell this one, you have a case in America. Both of them are arguing about who is the most senior, most wanted person in America. But you can't hear that about Peter. So what will not give us pride to support a man of that character? So I hate mentioning names. I've always been on issues.
Okay, let's deepen the conversation a little bit. One of Peter Obi's, if you like, fierce supporters, very close supporter, Chris Wokobiajini. I interviewed him on this platform, and he questioned his rationale for saving money for Anambra State, arguing that if there are things to invest money on, why save? What's your take on that?
But Chris knows the truth now. Chris has always spoke well of Peter Obi. So what changed? That's what we should ask Nigerians.
So it's observation.
Is it sudden realization? Is it something that happened? Is there a new friendship somewhere? So people should ask him. I can't answer for him, but he has always said that Peter Obi saved Peter Obi saved America, Anambra. Peter Obi worked for Anambra. Even people like Igige, who are experienced politicians, who are former governors of the same state, who have been senator, who have been minister, talked about effectiveness of Peter Obi in governance. So what changed with Chris? I don't know. But I am telling you that Peter saved so that the future of Anambrians will be guaranteed and the future generation does not come to meet debt. Because you don't want a government that leaves debt for his people. Because I don't think we are all happy when the level of the climbing debt that Tinubu is living today. No, we are not happy. No, but Peter is a banker. He's a man who have had several banks. He has never said you shouldn't borrow. But you should borrow for productivity. You shouldn't borrow for consumption. When you borrow, whatever you borrow for, you should be able to make profit and pay back the loan. Not that we now start to mortgage and start to mortgage the future of the Nigerian children with the only crude oil we have. Because government is not expanding in its investment. So that kind of money that Peter left behind is a simple system with capital formation. You earn money, you save money, and you invest money, which he did. Simple as ABCD. It's not hard for any economics like me to know. It's a simple thing.
Do you see his postulation from the context of setting an agenda for Peter Obi to explain that if I have excess and there are things to do, I will invest in those things rather than saving? Because he also said Atiku was not electable. He also said Tinubu is not the path to go. He only said that, explain to us your consumption to production and then saving money when there are things you can invest on.
Have you not seen new style that is going on in our political system? There's a system. They talk about Atiku small, talk about Peter, and then they talk about Tinubu, and then they punch Peter harder. So that people say, oh, they are free, oh, they are not anywhere. But the truth is that they are punching Peter. That's the system. That is the disinformation system that has been created. I can mention a lot of this activity. A lot of people are doing that. So, but they are not in one place. What they try to make you feel that because Peter is in power. Whatever you say, people can easily forget. Peter is the one people love. What you say, we have friends, and we know this. What the City Boy movement, what all the APC leadership is doing, is to create more disinformation about Peter Obi. Government is a continuum. Government will never end with Peter Obi. Whether it's going to end with the next governor. But what he's doing is to give stability to the incoming government, to save money for the future of the next generation, to invest money so that the government itself will not be so will not rely so much on federal allocation, on FAC. That is he wanted to create an independent Anambra where resources, whether you are there or not, will be enough to run the state if the federal allocation disappears. That is what all our governors should do. They should have the mindset of investment, of saving, not to only just squander the money with inflated government contract, with all sort of fraudulent practices. That's not what they should do. Peter have done the right thing, and a lot of people appreciate him. Have you seen Peter drop in his state and see how people rejoice? So this issue about trying to distract his campaign is a well-oiled machinery by the APC to create unnecessary distraction so that people will not focus on the failure of this government, on the lack of management capability of this government. So that's what they're doing, nothing else, nothing more.
So one of this, on the same podcast, he talked about consumption to production as mere sloganeering. What do you have to say?
What mere sloganeering? I studied BSc Economics. I have Masters in Political Economy and Developmental Studies and PhD in the same field. What do you call production to consumption as mere sloganeering? The man can tell you the square kilometer of land that they have in Kogi State, 29,000 something. He will tell you the numbers. He will tell you how many that is in Naija State, and that what the agricultural production and our investment in 64 million hectares of arable land will do. What slogan are you saying? He released a manifesto. He has said there's nobody whose policies, intentions is more in public than Peter Obi. There's none. None of these presidential candidates will tell you what they wanted to do. But he's telling you that Nigerian cannot have this level, this size of land, arable land, fertile land, and be importing food. That they will put our people to work. And they will create opportunity. Do you know agriculture? It has one of the shortest gestation period to earn money and to resolve our food crisis. Some of this is 3 months, they are ready. You farm. Do you understand what I'm saying? And we have the manpower to do this. But leaders don't have, the current leaders who have managed have no vision. They have no capacity. They have no interest to solving this problem. That's why I told you, consumption. We should stop consuming without producing. Simple English that even my child, who just finished secondary school, will understand. It's very simple, that we should stop consumption.
How does he intend to do that?
I've told you. We first of all stop importing food. Nigeria is importing a lot of food. Today, for them to be able to crash the price of rice, Tinubu administration went into serious importation and serious all kind of reducing regulations so that rice can come in and killing local farmers. Today, our local farmers are dead. Go and ask them. A lot of local farmers are complaining. Those who farm beans, those who farm rice can no longer, the business is no longer sustainable. Why you kill local economy? Because you want to prove a point. Because you don't have a plan on how to make sure that these local farmers can improve on their yields, can expand on their cultivation, and create storage system for them. Create storage system for them like silos and all that. They couldn't do that. Peter will do that. First of all, stop the hunger crisis. The hunger is too much. Create a food revolution, farm revolution that will create food and make food far, far cheaper. I told you the highest contributory item to our inflationary measures is food. The highest. So if you can't solve that problem, you have not solved anything. People must first of all be able to eat. Affordable for them. Not that somebody who earns 70,000 will be struggling and you see their children malnourished because they can't afford basic nutrients, basic things that would have made their children comfortable. These are the challenges. Nigerians in the street can relate to what I'm telling you. Nigerians in their home who will watch you will tell you that what I'm saying is the truth. But it's also those who have been insulated who are staying in the bunker, in the presidential safety nets, in the presidential house, that will tell you, no problem, people are enjoying. They are the only one who can come with rhetoric and say the president is trekking to his office. That shows insensitivity. That shows that you don't even connect with the plight of the ordinary Nigerians. Simple as ABC. Solve the food problem first. Peter, I've told you that what they did in other countries, Malaysia, where they have garment factories and all sorts of things, is possible here. It's possible here. And it's only when a man gets to power, they have control of the apparatus of state, they have the resources to establish this model that will create our people and take them from poverty, dependency, to sustainability, that you cannot test this thing. But what is currently on board for us to judge is that Tinubu has not been able to do it.
So why should Nigerians trust NDC and Peter Obi?
Why they should trust Peter Obi is that, for me, he's a morally upright man. Very morally upright man. Sincerely. It's painful that I have to come and talk about Peter Obi. I don't want to talk about him. I just want to be talking about the Nigeria economy, just be trying to practice what I was taught in classes and all these things that I've been in over the last 20 years. But I have no choice, because when you have a product, you have to sell it. And he's morally very upright. I've never met a man as disciplined as Peter Obi. I've been in this business. There's hardly anybody, some governors after from 1999, hardly none of them that we haven't interacted, that we haven't done things together. Hardly people in the presidency that we are not friends. But I am telling you that you can never see anything. Peter Obi will cut total waste from governance. Peter will never buy private jet. He will never. He will never buy private jet of 150 billion when you claim that you met a bad economy. The president said he made a bad economy from an APC government, not from PDP. APC government was in place for 8 years. The government came on board, said he made a bad system. The country was poorly managed. There was total collapse of the economy. That he was trying to repair it. And for repairing it, he bought a jet first for himself. For repairing it, he built a new presidential
But
villa.
he has to be preserved.
Which preserved?
He has to be protected
Do you know how many
as the number one
Do you
citizen.
know how many we have? He also have his own now. Do you know how many we have? We have about 9 or 10. I don't know the exact figure. Do you know the cost of managing those presidential fleet? You have to have, when you want to start a business, you won't start a business by living a luxurious life. You start a business by cutting your excesses and manage their resources, and then look at who are the major people who should benefit from these resources. Every time you talk on television, you say citizens should tighten their belt, whereas yours is losing. You are living life. You bought a beast of 1 billion naira. Abba, you don't say this now. You shouldn't be the one saying this on their behalf, that he has to be protected. Who's coming to kill him? Nobody wants to kill any of our president. All they want is that Nigeria should work. Nigerians are suffering. Nigerians are in total darkness of pain and poverty because the government has forgotten our people. And I'm sure that Peter will restore the hope of the forgotten people of this country. He will restore their hope. The community that Peter visited, the president have all the military apparatus, all the military authority to visit there. He won't go. He's even more afraid than the person who did not have the security. He won't go. Because what happened? He went to Benue now, where people died. He couldn't even go to the site where people were killed. He went, they did a whole banquet, they were dancing, singing sweet music for him. And he said that you people should go and settle yourself. What do you mean? He went to Jos, and people died. Don't forget. That's why he's saying that, he has to protect himself. At the expense of the general public, which you are saying you are serving. He went to Jos. He couldn't go to the place where this event happened. Even if you can't go to where the event happened, why not go to the hospital where the victims were kept? He stayed at the stadium, even complained that he can't stay long because there's no light. The person cannot suffer. He doesn't want to suffer 1 minute for anybody. But the people can go and suffer. So this is insensitivity. It doesn't relate with the plight of our people. It doesn't know what the people are going through. It's not interested in the crisis that is rocking the pocket of our people. The purchasing power of our people have dropped drastically. People can't buy anything. Do you know how you buy fuel? People don't go out. People don't have any life anymore. What are we saying? That the president cannot do something about this? That he can't look for a proper way? And he believes in politics? They can try to subdue people who are running election in state. They will take 30 governors to a state. It will not happen under Peter. Bet it with me.
You just mentioned about 30 governors and all of that let's go to Osun elections. And what happened, APC somehow lost again to Adeleke and his Accord party with, I think, about 60-something thousand votes, despite the massive invasion of Osun State by APC stalwarts. Everybody who had a name in APC was in Osun to campaign for Oyebanji. So let's look at it. Is it a sign, a warning sign for 2027? And what are the lessons to learn from Osun election?
Do you see how people were rejoicing online and say people got their hope back? They got their mojo back. People are depressed. People became disenchanted. Oh, the system has been carjacked. We can't do anything. But with what the citizens of the indigenes and the citizens of Ondo did, of Osun did, it has brought hope to a lot of demands of Nigerians. That if they stand up for themselves, if they count their vote and decide that their vote must count, right to count. A lot of Nigerians have seen a great example from Osun State. And you can't even examine the excitement well, except you see the kind of text we receive from people and the kind of communication that happen on all the social platforms. People are really happy. The rascality in our political system is becoming too embarrassing under the APC. Because if you know rascality, why do people from other states have to mobilize themselves in that number? I was coming from Lokoja that day. I saw the level of cars that was moving from Abuja to that place. The number of cars, that is wastage of our public resources, the wastefulness. They'll buy fuel, they'll use government money, they'll put people in a hotel, they'll carry their staff, 100 of their staff from one location to the other. Why people are suffering? Do you go to Wusetu? No, park your car in that Ademola, sit inside. Young boys, young women, married women, old, will be knocking your windows, your car window. Actually, we haven't eaten today. It's happening. The president won't know, I know. And those who are with him now will not know. They won't know. Because they are also insulated now. And when you are eating in Nigerian political system, you develop table manners. So what happened in Osun is morale booster for Nigerians. That when the people resolve, when the people are determined to achieve results, in their majority, because it must be few people who say they are no, in their majority, that they can change the direction our country is going, the very painful direction our country is going, then they can do it. Adeleke was really, really treated badly by this APC government. They did everything. They stopped his allocation, over 200 billion to local government allocation. Court gave order, they refused to listen to it. This is all the level of rascality that we see in our government. They tried to arrest all his RGF, arrest his people overnight, using state system, state power to suppress him. If Adeleke was not courageous, if he does not have a family support or the support of the people of the state, he would have collapsed or resign and run away. Because the level of force that was used by the federal government, even in Adeleke's interview, he said they were telling him, they will collect it from him by force. That's what they were telling him. They will use federal man to collect it from his hand by force.
All right. What do you make of Senator Joseph Carlos saying that despite Adeleke winning, that Tinubu will still win in 2027, win in Osun, win across the country, and Adeleke himself, despite the support, also saying that agreement is agreement, that he was supporting Tinubu for 2027?
Adeleke has his fundamental right to support Tinubu. He was saying that when the people still voted for him. But the people are going to vote for another candidate of their choice because they are very independent-minded people. But like, I've never come to your show or to any television station and call names. Especially those people I'm very close with. People like Joseph Carlos. It's somebody that I have, personal family relationship with over the last 25 years. I was national chairman of PPA, don't forget. I was national secretary of PPA, national general secretary of PPA. Who created that platform? It was just that gave me those opportunities. And not because I will not speak the truth against him, but I know that he has miscalculated in this area. He did it before in 2023 when he said Lawa will win in the primaries and Tinubu emerge. He did it again in that same 23 when he felt Peter Obi cannot do anything and Peter Obi swept Abia State. So there can still miscalculation from those you love who make mistakes, who speak in a way that they might jeopardize their own personal interest, not knowing that they think they are doing something right, but they jeopardize that is wrong, which is totally wrong. That across Nigeria, that people will vote for Tinubu. Excellency, you are wrong. People will not vote for Tinubu. People will vote for Peter Obi, and Peter Obi will defeat Tinubu. I'm convinced with that.
As we wrap up, what can we do collectively as a people to restore public confidence in Nigeria's democracy?
We must be vigilant. They said vigilance is the price we pay for liberty. Liberty does not come without struggle. As I say, power comes with struggle, through struggle. That is the Aluta way. So if we are not vigilant, and if we allow primordial sentiment, religion, tribal to becloud us, then we'll fail. Because if you're a majority in religion, you are a minority in your language. Because if you say, oh, I'm a Christian, I'm a Muslim, I'm a majority, I come from Kogi State, or I come from Benue State, or I come from Naija State. But when you go back to your state, don't forget, it will come to who is this tribe, who is Igala, who is Yoruba, who is Kaba, so that's where our problem lies. We should put away those primordial, those sentiments that have not led us anywhere, and try to look at the credentials of people that have been presented before us. What is their antecedent? Have they been truthful to the public in the public engagement so far? Have they said anything that is contradictory to what they really are? Have their credentials been questioned? Have they been seen to be criminal in any way after serving in public office? So Nigerians must do something different. And for me, I'm very proud of Nigerians in 2023. My joy knows no bounds because I've been in this party system. I would have been among those who believe that Nigerians will not always see the truth. Nigerians will always make mistakes. But they saw the truth. But there was a critical failure. And it was all of us have to share the blame. Then transfer the blame to Peter. It would be unfair. That blame we have to share was that we did so well in going to the ballot box. We did so well in showing the energy we need to be able to carry a man who have no structure anywhere and made ourselves the structure as citizens of this country and the electorate of this country and voted him. But we made mistakes by not insisting that process was followed through, including with just all of us. Because Adeleke, like I said earlier in my conversation with you, if he has sat in his parlor and every other person in your show has sat in their parlor, over 511,000 people voted for him. Does he know all of them? I don't think he knows 1% of those people. He doesn't. You can't know them. It is people who have seen those principles that that you have preached and that you have practiced that will go out to vote. And so far, people have said, oh, he has also performed. And the federal government also made their situation worse in Osun by intimidating the guy, intimidating the governor. So Nigeria naturally will always fight for the other dog. And the citizens of Osun rose up and said, no, you can't continue to use your power that belongs to all of us to try to suppress another person who should be able to have a freedom of participation. So that's the same thing that we're going to see. I'm very confident in the Nigerian populace. I believe in them. They've seen where we've lived their life. They can't find us that we have tried to, be controversy. Controversy pays. It trends in Nigerian politics. If I come here and say something now against Peter Obi, I will be in all of the platform. They'll say, oh, that is myself, don't go. I will sell, I will get money. The APC will come. They will say, oh, yes, you self don't come out. Come now, come and take this. Controversy sells. And people who betray people have better opportunity but I have children. They are looking at me. You understand? They love the stand I've taken. I might not be super rich. I might not be rich. But my children are happy. Every time they discuss in their school, they come back to say, Daddy, there's somebody say saw you on TV, you were talking. And you were really, their father was saying that you were hitting the point on the nail, on the right spot. And that makes me happy. That is the payment I need. That is the encouragement I need for my children to see that I'm an upright man. Nothing else, nothing more. Because at the end of the day, people have left property for their children have sold it. I got a gist from one senior person that said, a man who before he died said he should be buried in his parlor. That's where he wants to be buried, in his house, somewhere in his house, inside. But immediately he died. The children will say, if we bury him, how do we sell the house? Do you understand? So it happens everywhere across the globe that you want to leave property. The richest man in Africa, they left property. Now, where are they? Generation after generation to squander. But you can leave name. You can leave reputation. You can leave integrity that will never be forgotten if you do the right things and take more people out of poverty. We're talking about Lee Kuan Yew. Lee Kuan Yew was there for 30 years. China, there were Chinese people, there were Malaysians, there were Indians. He removed the tribe. He removed everything about that and say it is about Singapore. And develop the country today. If you go to Singapore, you might not want to come back. It's like heaven on earth. Because one man was committed in doing that. Internal vigilance is the price we pay for liberty. Don't give up. Because not for yourself. Because our time will pass. Most of people are past 50 years. Your time will pass. You remember when you were 30. You know what you were doing with your life. It will pass. Don't give up because of the future of your own children and the one yet unborn. Don't give up. People in power are so insensitive and wicked. I'm telling you the truth. Nothing more.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure having you as always.
Thank you.